Grand Rising family, Grand Rising, thank you all for being here with me this morning. I am Claudine Dorce, the CEO of Dorce Travel Agency. As we prepare for our community this morning, I ask that you have some paper and pen to take some notes um, and some water. Thank you all for joining us this Sunday morning, Grand Rising. Grand Rising family, thank you all for joining us this morning. Hello, our Facebook community. Thank you for joining us this morning. Grand Rising. I ask that you all have some water and some paper and pen to begin our session.
Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. We're healing, we're dealing, we're growing. Together, releasing. We're teaching, we're moving. Together, we're learning, discerning. We're striving. Together, we're leading, connecting, transforming. Together.
Grand Rising, WWUE community. I am Claudine Dorce. Thank you all for joining us this Sunday morning. So if I was to introduce myself in a group, I would definitely introducing myself with, hello, I'm Claudine, and I am obsessed with traveling. I am a mother with two boys, Zion and Liam, who are 6 and 8 years old. I am Haitian. I was born in Haiti, but raised here in Miami, where I am currently located, the Sunshine State. I am a mental health therapist and a behavioral health therapist. I'm the CEO of Dorce Travel, which is what brings us here this morning. I am also the co-founder of Pillow Talk of South Florida Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization for teen girls in the Homestead, Florida area. And I am a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. This is my second year within the chapter. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I am here to talk about travel, my passion, something that I do quite often. So I am just spreading my passion to everyone and hope to help families increase their travel. So I do have a question before we get started. I want you guys to just think for a moment. If there is anywhere in the world you could travel, where would you like to travel? And you can put your response in the chat, and my supportive team will give me some of these responses. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you travel? So someone, Gina, thank you for sharing. She said Tanzania. Shawnee, thank you for sharing. She said South Africa, Greece, Kenya, which is all on my list as well. Yes, Africa. Um, Adam, thank you for sharing. Spain, Italy, and Brazil. Spain is beautiful. I actually just came back from Spain this year. I went in March for my son's birthday, and it was an amazing experience. Nigel, thank you for sharing. Greece, Ghana, Italy, Brazil. And Bolia, thank you for sharing. Hawaii. Yes, you all have mentioned some really great destination. Thank you all for sharing. And you can continue to share in the chat as time go on. I'll read your responses in the chat. So a few destination, if you can open the slide, Africa. Phyllis, thank you for sharing Africa. So a few destinations I've been in the United States. I've traveled quite a few destinations to Louisiana, Washington D.C., Texas, Puerto Rico, Delaware, New York. I actually went to college in New York and lived in New York for a period of time. California, Colorado, Connecticut, Georgia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, West Virginia, Nevada, Arizona, Illinois, New Jersey, and New Hampshire. I do have a goal to visit all 50 states. So soon I will be within every state of the United States. Some international travel. My favorite, Dubai. I actually did Dubai last year for my 30th birthday. It was beautiful. One of those experiences that I am happy that I did. Colombia, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Bahamas, Aruba. Aruba is actually my favorite island. Just the peace and tranquility that it brings. Canada, and I recently went to Morocco. So Morocco is the first country I visited in Africa, within the continent of Africa. So I do plan on visiting more, but that experience in Morocco was amazing. So the picture that you actually see right now in my slideshow is me and my family in Morocco. We took a private cooking class. So that was the cooking instructor. And it was an amazing experience. I do travel with my boys a lot. My rule is if I take one solo trip for myself, I have to book their trip right after. Just because I do believe that my children have to gain the same experience that I am gaining from traveling. I always say that it's one thing to see it in the textbook. I'm an educator as well. So it's one thing to see it in a textbook, to hear it in a classroom, but the real life experience, there's nothing like it. So we actually ended up going to Spain because my kids were learning about Spain in their classroom during Hispanic Heritage Month. And they came home and they're like, Mom, I really want to go to Spain. I'm like, don't worry, I got it. We're going to do this. And my son, my oldest son, Zion, it was amazing to see how he put what he learned in the classroom together while we were in the trip, and then went back to school and told his experience, and the teachers and students were in awe. So I am about teaching my children outside of classroom through real life experiences. And that is my goal of why I travel with them so much. If we can go to the next slide, please. So like I said, I haven't been everywhere, but it is definitely on my list. And many of the destinations that you all have shared in the chat, are goals that I have for myself and my family. Hawaii's definitely on the list. Australia's on the list. Um, Catherine, thank you for sharing that you've been to Arizona. Barbados, yes, John is on my list, definitely. I plan to do Barbados through a cruise next year that I've booked, so I'm excited about that. Bermuda and many US state. Um, yes, definitely, definitely. So these are some of my pictures of me in Paris. On the left, on the right is me and my children in Morocco. We did a private camel tour, and it was an amazing experience. It was my kids' first time, my first time being up close to a camel. So it was the greatest experience ever. And Dubai. I Dubai was always on my list, and I was last year. I was like, you know what, your 30th birthday, there's nothing like going to Dubai, and I was in awe. It's one of the richest countries, um, and just the experience being on the tallest building in the world, which is the Burj Khalifa building, having dinner in the sky. There was nothing like it. I did it with my girls. It was just the most amazing trip I've ever had. So when people ask me, what are your top destinations? I say Dubai, Morocco, and Spain, but it can change because again, I haven't been everywhere, and I do plan to be everywhere. So it definitely can change as time go on. But Dubai, Morocco, and Spain are my top three destinations as of right now internationally. Within the United States, my top three destinations, definitely New Orleans, Houston, and LA. And New Orleans and Houston, just the culture, the vibes. It's amazing. And I've been multiple times with different people, and I've always found something different to do, whether I was doing the regular tourist activities or whether I stepped out of my comfort zone and tried different things within the community. But it's always been just a great vibe, and I really enjoy these top destinations. Next slide, please. So if ideally you can travel, how often would you travel? How often would you like to travel? Once per quarter, Gina. 5 times a year. Shawnee, thank you for sharing. Every 2 years, Catherine. Yearly. Phyllis, thank you for sharing. Once per month. Yes. Yes. So Adam, Chantrell, I actually travel every month. Um, so I take a trip every month. And when people either see my Instagram posts of my travel, or I'm at work and they're like, where are you going this weekend? I'm like, hey, I'm actually taking a trip this weekend. They're like, wait, you're always on a go. And I am always on a go. Travel is my therapy. As a mental health therapist and a behavioral therapist, there's a lot that just consume on a day-to-day basis. So I reward myself and disconnect at least once a month. And that travel looks different. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm traveling internationally every month. Sometimes I would just get in my car and go to a different city. And that's actually what I did this weekend. I was like, you know what, let me just get in my car with my kids and let me drive over 4 hours to Orlando. Last weekend, I was in New Orleans. The weekend before that, I was in Atlanta. And then next weekend, I'm actually heading out to Philly. So this month, it's my birthday month, so I like to spoil myself. And because travel is my therapy, travel is my passion, every October, I do make it a key to travel every weekend in October, just to reward myself for everything I've accomplished and reward myself for life around the sun and just being alive and grateful for life. But I do travel every month, and people always ask me how. And that is what I'm here this morning to share with you how. It is realistic. I tell people all the time, I travel on a budget because I am a single mom with 2 kids. I do have a lot of responsibility. And even with my responsibility, even with um, working a full-time job and having my businesses, I still make it a goal to travel every month. That is just my therapy. That is where I disconnect from the world. That is where I share my joy and spend time with family and friends. And I often do drag someone with me, whether it's my kids or my sister, my or my friends. So I take people with me because I like to just share my passion of travel with other people and show them that it is possible. I've met people who think it's not possible, and I'm like, no, it's possible, and I'll show you. I'll walk you through the steps, and I'll even go along with you, so you can see exactly how I do it. Yes, I do have 2 children with 2 full-time job, actually, 2 full-time job. Because my behavioral therapy and my mental health therapy are 2 separate full-time jobs, and I have 2 businesses that I run. So I tell people I'm living proof that it's possible with everything on my plate. Definitely. Next slide, please. Wait, before we go to that slide, sorry. If you can share what factors stop you from traveling? What are some factors that stop you from traveling? Work.
Doreen, at this time, I like to maybe call on a few community members so we can ask anyone who would like to share verbally, raise your hand and we can call on you and you can
Yeah.
share factors stop you from traveling.
Yes, thank you. Anyone want to unmute themselves and verbally share?
Catherine, you shared in the chat that you are inspired by Claudine. Can you share what stops you from traveling and also what inspires you in this conversation? Are you willing?
Grace and peace, Grand Rising community family.
And Rise.
Extending love to everyone. What inspires me? All those hats she has on. I know a little bit about what it takes to get places. So you have to pack things and know things. So I am at awe at all that she is doing. With 2 children. So yes, I'm inspired because I'm always looking for energy and something to propel me forward because I'm recognizing I have a tendency to halt sometimes. So this morning I am propelled forward. I want to go to Alaska. I want to experience that cold atmosphere. And what's stopping me, I believe, is, not knowing where to go.
Mhm.
So far, most of my travels have been with my husbands. I didn't have, 2 husbands at one time, but with my husbands when I had them. And so now I am solo and widow. So, knowing where to go, making decisions as to where you're going to stay, how you're going to get there. My preference is the railways, and Alaska is a place I really would love to experience. And with that, I am complete.
Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate you sharing. So yes, knowing where to go is the first step, but as I proceed in the slide, sometimes not knowing where to go, trusting the universe to guide you, it works well as well. Some days, some months, I don't even know where I'm going, but with all my hacks, wherever it leads me, I'm like, all right, we're gonna go there, we're gonna figure it out. We're just gonna do it. That's just part of life for me. And when I get there, I'll figure it out. But I do use some hacks to help me figure it out. But thank you for sharing. Phyllis shared money. Yes, money is definitely a factor with traveling. But with these hacks, and there there's definitely ways to save, especially if it's a goal and a purpose that you have for yourself. Um, so the first thing I always tell people when they ask me how do I begin traveling, I always say evaluate your goals, your purpose, and lifestyle. That's what I had to do. I had to just sit and think about, like, what are my goals? What do I want um, to do? Why am I traveling? Am I traveling just because, or what am I wanting to get out of traveling? And my children became my goals and my purpose that led me to traveling. As a little girl, by migrating into the United States, um, we didn't have papers. I didn't become a U.S. citizen till about 6 years ago, and people are usually surprised. They're like, "Wait, really?" And yeah, so for years of my childhood, my mom would always just take us to Orlando, Key West, or Delaware. Those were like the three only destinations that we would go to. And we would only go to those three destinations because family was there, and it was her comfort. But I've always desired to see more of the world. And the number thing that stopped me is that I wasn't a legal US citizen, so I didn't have papers. So growing up, I've always heard my mom say to me, you don't have papers, you can't go anywhere, you leave the country, you're not coming back into this country. So that was the thing that always stopped me. And when I finally became a US citizen 6 years ago, and finally I ran to go get my passport completed that following week. And I was like, finally, it's there, it's here. Um, and I remember that desire, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this now. It's time. I have kids. And I'm like, that's not gonna stop me because I have kids. I'm gonna take my kids with me. They deserve to see the world. They deserve to learn about culture, engage within culture, understand culture in so many different ways beyond the classroom. So that even became my goal and purpose even more. Then I looked at my lifestyle and I sat and I asked myself, like, what do you spend your money on? What are you doing? And I actually remember one time, like, just getting a notebook and writing out the things that I just spent my money on. I realized that I was just spending money on things that didn't hold that much value to me. Wasn't really creating memories for me. Wasn't, these were materialistic things that I got, made me happy for a while, and then that was it, right? So I was like, okay, you have to adjust your lifestyle in order to create um, this environment that you want, to create this goal that you want, to manifest what you want. So adjusting my lifestyle did start with watching my spending, and that ties into the money portion as well. So I always tell people these three things are really important. Understanding your goal. Why do you want to travel? What is your purpose? Where does your purpose align to traveling? And what does your lifestyle look like? And how can you adjust your lifestyle? It's not something that happens overnight, but it is doable, just taking small actions. Catherine shared watching her spending is important to, yes, to you at this point in time. Do you want to share more verbally, Catherine?
I will. I am willing to share more. So I connect that with wisdom, paying attention to what I spend money on. And as you stated, doesn't hold value. So if I say I want to go somewhere and then the funds are not necessarily there in my natural view, my eyes can't see the funds. They might be there, but my eyes can't see the funds. Then to pay attention to what I'm spending money on, right? Am I feeding maybe an emptiness inside of me with other things
Mm-hmm.
opposed to reaching for the strong desire that I have to go to Alaska? right? I want to go to Alaska. So I say that out of my mouth. But are my steps aligning with what I'm saying out of my mouth? And all what I'm finding and relating to what you said is that, well, what are you spending the money that you have on? You know, you might not see all that you need to get to Alaska, but how do you get the money that would require for you to go to Alaska? So I connect certain things, I connect wisdom with, and then because I'm over 60, I would like to experience a life of wisdom. So I'm connecting that. And with that, I'm complete.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, definitely. When you ask yourself, what are you spending that money on? Sometimes when we write it on paper, it makes it even more realistic for us, right? Because we'll think about it mentally, we'll try to process it mentally, but when you actually write it on paper and see what you're spending that money on, it makes a difference. I always suggest to my clients who are trying to save money, um, to just write it out and do a budget tracker for at least 60 days. 60 days is a good period to gaps what you spent your money on. And it could be done either daily, weekly, one of those two, daily or weekly. Um, and just writing out everything you spent your money on. So I remember I used to be like, well, I could track it through my bank statement. And I was like, but that didn't help, that didn't help. But actually like picking up my phone at the end of the day and saying, all right, I purchased this, I purchased that. I did notice that a lot of my money was going to buying lunch at work. I was like, okay, you're spending too much money on lunch at work. You should not be spending $200 a week on lunch at work. So that right there was an immediate adjustment. I said, all right, you're only allowed to buy food twice a week if it's absolutely necessary. Fortunately for me, I work in a school system during the day, so I could either eat the school cafeteria lunch or I could meal prep. So that's how I adjust. That's something that I adjusted within my lifestyle. But I didn't realize it until I actually started to write and follow my spending on a daily basis. I had to do mine on a daily basis because I need to see every day when I spend. On a weekly basis, it was too far out for me. But that was an example of adjustment that I had to make. So writing it down, Catherine, will help a lot for you to just visually see it on a paper. And then that's where you can say, all right, this is where I'm spending a lot of my money. Is this something, valuable or important or something I have spent money on so much? Can I make an adjustment there? And then creating a game plan of how you're going to make that adjustment. So Susan shared, I am planning a trip to Egypt and planning what I need to do to go there. Yes, I'm a paper person. When you plan like that, you realize how much you're spending on takeout food. Yes, definitely. And you're, I want to hear more about your trip to Egypt and your planning, but definitely yes. Being a paper person, and technology too, whatever works best for you, definitely help. But just actually seeing it physically and not just mentally saying it in our mind. Seeing it somewhere, whether it's on a paper or on a device. Veronica, you have your hands up. Can I unmute Veronica?
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
Okay,
guess.
so I'm planning a trip to Ghana for a month, right?
Yes.
And there are some airlines that have like a 25-hour, 24-hour stopover.
Hmm.
And have you ever optimized the stopover and how do you plan that?
Yes, definitely. So I'm actually going to do it again in March. I did it on my way to Spain. I
Mhm.
optimize it because it is an opportunity to see another country. in the process without me having to purchase another flight. So I am the person like, okay, how can I see somewhere else and save money at the same time? And it's a great opportunity. And I just plan something to base off the departure time. So I'll give a concrete example. On our way to on our way back from Paris in March, I'm taking my son to Paris in March for his 10th birthday. We will be stopping in, oh my goodness, where are we stopping? We're stopping somewhere, and I just caught a blank, and maybe it'll come back to me during conversation. So our flight actually will not leave till 4, and we will actually get there at 10 p.m. So I did get a hotel close enough to the airport, just in case we wake up late. Like I always think, because I have kids, so I always think to the extreme of, okay, what if we wake up late? What if something's going on? I need to make it to the airport and I can't see that country. It's fine, but I rather plan. But I was like, okay, from 10 to 4 is enough time to at least go out, have a meal, which this meal will probably most likely be breakfast. And then I'll look for somewhere to have breakfast in the city center, but not too far from the airport. At the same time, I will make sure that we have our carry-on, because the flights are going connecting. I'm thinking that I don't need to take my check-in luggage. So I plan to check in all of my luggage and just keeping our book bags. So it's easier for us to walk around the city and not have to carry a luggage around us the whole time. And I just plan very simple, because it's enough time to do something, but not so much. So for me, having breakfast that morning somewhere city center will be great. And I just thought about where we're stopping. So we're actually stopping in Morocco, Casablanca. So we went to Morocco, Marrakesh, and I went to see Casablanca. So that was a great stop for us. I'm like, all right, we didn't do Casablanca, let's do it real quick. But it is a great opportunity to optimize another country while traveling and not have to pay another.
Okay, so my second question is, I hope I'm not taking up too much time.
Please.
Is so I'm assuming that you're not taking like Delta, you're taking like Turkish Air and some of the other airlines that we wouldn't necessarily jump on.
Yes, correct. Yes.
And so how do you purchase your ticket? Do you go on? Yes, I'm sorry if I'm asking too many questions, because right now I'm looking at it and I'm saying, if I went to Ghana by Turkish Air, I would go to Casablanca for 23 hours. So first of all, I learned from you is that I could get a hotel very inexpensively.
Yes, very expensively. Yes. So I create a budget for my hotel, especially if I'm staying. So in Casablanca, since we're only there for an overnight trip, I told myself I'm not spending no more than $100 on this hotel, because it's only one night. So that is my strict budget, no more than $100. And it was definitely doable. So I would start by just setting a strict budget for that 24 hours, so it doesn't interfere in spending where your final destination is. You just don't want it to affect your final destination so much, because you're there for only 24 hours. Did I answer your question?
Thank you. You are wonderful, because I've been looking at all these flights that were like different airlines that I don't normally take, and I was saying, I wonder how it is. Is this airline, Turkish airline, a good airline? Is it comfortable? Is the seating? Only thing I noticed about Turkish airline that the other airlines don't offer is they offer 2 bags.
Yes.
You can take 2. Yeah.
So when we went to Spain this past March, we took TAP Airlines, and I never heard of TAP Airlines. So like I was like, what is TAP Airlines? What is that? So what I actually did was one day, because I couldn't reach them via phone. It was like a hassle. And so I actually went to my local airport, Miami International Airport, and I went to TAP Airlines desk and I spoke to someone, and that gave me comfort. Because first I was really questioning, was my ticket real? Because I was like, what is TAP Airline? I've never heard of it. I can't even reach anyone to confirm that my ticket is actually real. So I was like, you know what? Let me go to the airport myself and speak to someone. And the lady there made me feel so comfortable. And she explained to me, which I didn't know, I had 2 bags free, meals were provided. She explained to me the seating arrangement. So that gave me the comfort. And honestly, flying TAP Airline, I had the best experience. Going from Spain to Morocco, we did Ryanair, and Ryanair is another one I've never heard of, and I had a hard time reaching them. So when I got to Spain and landed in Spain, I looked for the Ryanair booth, and I also went over and spoke to them. And this was actually during when COVID was starting to phase out the requirements, but it was still there. So I had some questions about, how do I get from Spain to Morocco? What do I need? Did I need a visa? Because I didn't do that process. Luckily, I didn't need it. But I had some questions. And again, Ryanair was also one of those airlines that I had a hard time getting to. And they also explained the process to me. So if you find that you're taking a flight with a airline that is not traditionally what we know of or feel comfortable with, I would highly suggest going to the airport if you have some time and trying to meet someone there and asking your questions. That was really a comfort for me. But if you're doing TAP and Ryanair, I do recommend them. But they're not usually traditional. I do want to answer some questions in the chat. Someone asked, did you travel during COVID, and how did you handle the vaccine requirement, quarantine testing? So we did travel during COVID. COVID was that, for me, year that I just took advantage of traveling. I really took advantage. When traveling started to open back up, the flights were at their lowest. And even during COVID, before they started like shutting down travel, like the beginning of COVID, I started just booking flights because they were super, super, super cheap. And I knew they would get canceled because of the restriction, but airlines were giving credit. So I had like over $1,000 in credit with like Spirit, Frontier, because when they would cancel the flight, they would not only give me the credit of my money, but they would give me a voucher on top of that. So I was like, don't worry, I'm just gonna go ahead and book all of these flights, and I'll keep these credit in the hub. And when travel open up, that's money I have to book flights. So that was one of the hacks that I used during in the beginning of COVID. So when travel started to open back up, I did get vaccinated because it was a requirement to go to Dubai. And at that time, I was preparing for my 30th birthday to go to Dubai. So I did get vaccinated. My children, fortunately, everywhere I've been, they haven't had to be vaccinated. So that worked out. If there was a destination that I was thinking of that required them to be vaccinated, I just X'd that out temporarily. And I said, you know what, things will open back up. There's so many other places we could go to that doesn't require vaccination. Because I personally didn't want to have my children vaccinated. Getting back into the US, it was really easy. So the only challenge I had was when I went to Colombia, and it was a challenge because my son tested positive for COVID. And that was my biggest fear during the travel. Everyone was like, you need to stop traveling with the kids. The kid's gonna get sick. And long and behold, we went to Colombia. And in Colombia, we actually did 2 cities. We did Bogota, and then we did Cartagena. And that was actually a great deal because traveling between the cities like $50. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take advantage of this. So coming back to Bogota, my son wasn't feeling well. And I honestly thought it was just a regular cold. We had to get tested. And then, that trip, I did hire someone to come into our apartment to test us. And that some countries were offering that opportunity where you didn't have to go and stand in line at the airport, or you didn't have to go to a testing site. They will come to you for a small additional fee. Colombia is one of those countries that is really cheap. The cost of living is really cheap there. So it was convenient to have someone come to our apartment at the time and test us. We were staying at an apartment at the time. And my son unfortunately tested positive for COVID. So we ended up not being able to go home. What I did do, I had my mom with me. So I had my mom go because I was like, Mom, it made no sense for you to stay. I didn't want to risk you catching COVID. And then it'll be even more complicated for all of us to try to go back home. So my mom went back home, me and the kids stay. Because Colombia is so affordable, I was able to get another apartment through Airbnb for a week. And this way we stayed and just waited out for him to test negative for COVID. Luckily,
thank you. That was my question. Did you have to book a new flight?
So I did contact our airline. I can't remember who we flew. I did contact our airline. I did submit documentation proving that he tested positive for COVID. They were super understanding. So they did change our flight. I know what happened. So I couldn't change our flight because when we wanted to fly out, they didn't have anything available. So the minute he tested negative, I wanted to leave that same day. So they had nothing available. So the airline did give me the money as credit, but I went ahead and booked a last minute flight to just fly out home. Because at that point, I was over everything. I had been in this country a week longer than I wanted to be. So I was like, you know what? My son is negative. It's time to go home. So the airline was super understanding. They did offer to change it, but I had to wait 2 days to come back home. And I didn't want to. So I said, give me the money credit. It's fine. I'm going to eventually use the money. And I just went to the airport and booked another flight to just come back home immediately. So that's what I did in that situation. But I find that airlines have been super flexible. But I think recently, as things start to open back up, there'll be maybe a less adjusting on flight changes, where they're charging a fee now. Before they weren't charging a fee. Going through the chat. Donna share, I was too tired to see China during my long layover, but I had to make a great meal and hotel stay. Great. Also did a day trip to Frankfurt, Germany. That is, I'm dying to go to Germany. That is on my list. That is definitely on my list. A new world we live now and can cause anxiety. So little customer service from actual people. Yes, definitely. Colombia was great and great free flights. That'd be my fear. Yes. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you for sharing in the chat. Thank you. So we could go to the next slide, please. So some hacks. So I spoke on this a little, so saving. I created, thank you. I created an account specifically for travel. So I add funds every pay period. So I created this account. I remember I was having a conversation with my advisor, and I was telling he had asked my goals, and I was like, well, one of my goals are definitely travel. Besides saving my kids' college fund and everything, travel's on there. And he was like, all right, so let's create an account specifically for travel. And I was like, okay, I never thought about that, but that's a great idea. And so every pay period, I take money out and I specifically put in this account. And I only use this card for travel. If I'm traveling, this card will be used. I'm not traveling, this card will not be used. And I'm very strict on it. I've helped myself by leaving the card at home. And so I don't feel the need, if I'm out, all right, there's money on this card, let me use it. So I'm very strict on that. And it's really just being very intentional on what you want, you know? So I was like, all right, if I want this, I have to be intentional. I have to stick to the game plan. I am a minimalist. I evaluate my everyday spending. So I don't just spend, you know, I think twice before I spend anything. So perfect example, like my birthday was last Monday and I really wanted this bag. And I was like, okay, if you're thinking about this bag 3 weeks from now, go ahead and reward yourself and get this bag. But if you're not thinking about this bag 3 weeks from now, then you really didn't need it. It was just a want. And that is the kind of like the golden rule I give myself when it comes to spending, especially if it's a large amount. I ask myself, is it essential or is it a want? And if I identify it's a want, I'll tell myself, all right, let's set a time period. And after this time period, if you're still thinking about this item, then all right, you can go ahead and get it. But if you're not thinking about it, then it was just a moment thing. Let it go, move on. Let's go on. So that's kind of the rule I give myself, and it works out. It works out. So I find myself not spending on things that are not necessary. And if I do get something, it's because I really have like pondered on and thought about it. And I'm like, all right, I really deserve this. I really want it. But 9 times out of 10, I most likely am not wanting to purchase a thing. And risk. Life challenges always happen. But taking that trip for me is like, just go for it. Life will always happen. And if I allow all factors in life to stop me, then I probably would never travel because there's always something going on in my life. There's always something coming up. So I tell myself, you know, just take that risk. When you come back home, you deal with whatever needs to be dealt with, but just go. And I that's just the 3 things that I just kind of just live myself by, and that pushes me to go. So hacks on balling on a budget. I search for deals by dates and not destination. So there's an app I use called Skyscanner, and I'll share on the next slide as well. But I put in dates. I work in a school system, so I know the dates that I will be off. And so I'll put in those dates. And I'll look at and see what's available, what's within my budget, what's realistic for me. The more flexible you are, the better it is. I admire those that have their own business, are able to control their own schedule, because that's even more opportunities to travel. And I also try to travel off season. And I also find that with my kids, traveling off season works best, because I do get nervous with crowds and busyness. So with the kids, I know it's less crowd, less busy. It allows me to really enjoy. I've realized the older I'm getting, I just want to just see and explore, experience. I don't want to be involved in just so much of the busyness compared to when I was younger. So the off-season travel really helps a lot. So when I look at destinations, I also look at, is this the off-season for this country or for this city that I'm going to? And 9 times out of 10, if it's off-season, it's cheaper. It's 10 times cheaper versus when it is on season. I love staying in Airbnbs and apart hotels, especially when I travel internationally. So every international trip that I take, 9 times out of 10, I am staying in an Airbnb apartment hotel, because those international trips are usually 5 days or longer. And that helps me save a lot of money. So I go and buy groceries, I cook. We're not eating out every day, definitely not. I find these are like ways that I find that I can save money. So Airbnbs are like my favorite thing, especially for international travel. We did in Colombia, we did in Morocco. We had like the most beautiful Airbnb in Morocco. It was just like breathtaking. We did it in Spain. And so people always ask me, internationally, am I scared when I book these Airbnbs? How do I ensure my safety? And it does take a lot of research. Before I book that Airbnb, I do reach out to the homeowner and I have a conversation with them. And I go off of my energy, I go off the conversation. How is that person making me feel when I'm messaging? Are they dismissive? Are they short answering my questions? Are they offering different opportunities? So I'll give you an example. Going to Morocco, my mom was like, we need to stay in a hotel. I'm like, Mom, we're not staying in a hotel when we're spending 5 days in Morocco. That's gonna add up a lot on eating out every single day. It's not happening. And she's like, you're going to a country you have nothing about. How are you staying in an Airbnb? Don't worry, Mom. So when I messaged the Airbnb owner, he went extremely beyond. I explained to him, I've never been to Morocco. I am traveling with my family. I am a little nervous. I've read some things, some reviews, but I just need to know, where is your Airbnb? Give me some information. And he went extremely beyond. He was like, I'll set up transportation for you. I can get a maid for you, a nanny service. He was giving me suggestions. It was just like that feeling of just genuinely wanting to help me. And that really what sold me. And I read reviews, obviously, the reviews were amazing. Everyone was speaking highly of the Airbnb. Everyone speaking highly of the homeowner. So that really helped me out a lot. And I even went to the extreme of asking for his social media. And I went through, looked at his social media and kind of saw, I saw that he was married, a family with kids. And I reached, so all of those factors really made me feel comfortable. He set up transportation to have us picked up from the airport to bring us to the Airbnb. He scheduled a private tour guide to take us around. So all of that really helped me feel comfortable. And it honestly was the best experience. And my mom, she thinks of like the worst of everything. And I love her, appreciate her for it. But sometimes her fear will project onto me. But I was like, no, Mom, like I'm confident in this. And when we got there, she was herself like, you did a great job with this. And I was like, thank you. That felt good to hear. But I highly recommend Airbnbs or park hotels. And then excursions. I love excursions, but they can be expensive, very expensive. So I try to be my own tour guide first. And I do that through really intense research. I look for different activities. My rule of thumb is first, let's try to free things. My kids are into museum, they're into different events and activities. So I try to look for those activities that are free first. And then I'll set a budget on what I want to spend excursion on. And I also, when I book excursion, I think about what am I getting out of this excursion, or what are my kids getting out of the excursion, right? I personally, when I go to the city and I see the city tour buses, I think it's the city big bus it's called. I tell myself, no, I could just walk myself and get that experience, stop, interact with people, ask questions, be hands-on, versus hopping on and hopping off of a bus. Why my feet will work. It's a great exercise. So these are things that I process in my mind, and I'll have these conversations with my kids too. I'll say, listen, we're going to be our own tour guide today. Let's do some research. Let's look at what the city has to offer us, and let's rent a car and go on our own, or let's walk around and let's figure it out ourselves. And that's how I try to save a lot of money. So the golden rule is, if you want to travel for cheap, you can never treat one trip like your last. It's not, and I tell myself this all the time. I tell myself, Claudia, remember, next month you have another trip coming up. So this is not your last trip. You need to ball on a budget. Set your budget and look for these hacks and look for different ways to maximize your experience in this country or in this city, but also it's not your last trip. Jacqueline said TripAdvisor is great for booking excursion. Yes, definitely. I love TripAdvisor. I do Eventbrite to look up events within the city. These are like great for looking. Yes, and reading reviews, calculate where there's more cost to do things on your own and pay. Yes, great job. Yes, Jacqueline, great. Yes. And we could do the next slide.
Before we go to the next slide, Claudine, I'd like to acknowledge it is about to be 8 o'clock, 7:58, and some of our community members will be leaving. Would you like to share your message?
Yes, thank you all for joining us, joining me this morning. I will be on Facebook if you have any questions. I know some of y'all have to go. And then the remaining of the presentation will be uploaded on Facebook. Thank you all for joining me this morning. Thank you for putting my contact information in the chat. So hacks on finding some great deals. Google Travel and Skyscanner is always where I start. Skyscanner is amazing. It is an app in a Google and the Apple store. I keep my destination open. If I'm looking for a destination within a period where I'm not working, then I'll put those dates in. If I'm flexible, like in the summer, I'm super flexible, I'll just put the summer months. And the deals that come up, I'll just go for them. So I never look so much for destinations. I just allow the deals to take me to my next destination. That's my goal. Joining reward programs and signing up for a travel credit card is gold mine. I am all about collecting points. I love points. Benefits come with these points. So my travel credit card, it helps a lot with a lot of things. For example, when I rent a car, I don't have to worry about paying the extra out of pocket for insurance because it's covered within my credit card. If I'm delayed up to a certain amount of hours, my credit card will help me out and cover anything that I need to do because of that delay, whether it's book another hotel or book another flight or if I lose my luggage. So I do have one travel credit card that I use for my travel, especially internationally, just the benefits that come with it. And as I mentioned, I'm totally like obsessed with my points because those points, they do help. They help a lot. They help with free stays at hotels. They help with discounts on the flights. They really do help. So I'm very obsessed with my points. I'm the type of person, I'll look at my app, I'm like, wait, it's been 72 hours, my point is not here. I need to call because the benefits of these reward programs help. So I highly recommend doing reward program. If you have kids, I highly recommend creating an airline account for your kids. So my kids are collecting points and they're not even 18 yet. So imagine by the time they get 18, how many points they'll have. So I do have accounts for my kids, just collecting points for them. If the points do expire, then they do allow you to use those points. But most of the time, it's okay to just collect those points and sit them there. So I always tell people, if you're traveling with your kids, create these accounts for your kids too, because they can reap the benefits as well. Next slide, please. And these are just some pictures, dare to live the life you've always wanted. Like I said in the beginning, I've always wanted to travel. And that biggest factor that stopped when I was younger is my citizenship status. But I always tell myself, once I become a US citizen, it's going to happen and nothing's going to stop me. And I am just a huge advocate of taking my family, my friends with me. When they're like, I can't do this. I'm like, yeah, you can do it. I'm going to show you, I'm going to guide you, I'm going to help you through it. I'm even going to go with you so you can see when I actually get there, how I do it. So I, just dare to live the life you always wanted. If travel is what you want, it's definitely doable. I'm doing it, and I took the time. I'm doing it with 2 kids and a long plate of tasks that I have. But just do it. I've realized that the best memories my kids have are traveling. I love when we're in the car or we're having dinner or something, and my kids like, Mommy, remember when we did this? Remember when we went this? And when they meet people, they tell people all the time their experiences. So I can even see. Funny story, my son, my oldest son, the teacher was doing a social studies assignment about a country, and he had this look on his face, and his teacher looked at him and said, yeah, this is kind of boring to you when you travel so much and you actually been there, right? And he's like, yeah, I've been there. And I tell the teacher all the time, yeah, you know, this is what I live for them, is that when it ties back into the classroom, they're able to say, I have that real life experience, and I can share that real life experience with my peers as well. So that's what it's all about. So Desiree from Facebook share, Africa is my main focus. I've already traveled to Egypt, Morocco, South Africa before COVID, and I'm now ready to resume touring the continent. I love it. I love it. Yes. Africa is definitely that continent that I told myself that I have to see every country in it. That is one of my goals. So I am getting there little by little. I'm definitely getting there. And it's powerful. And I tell myself, you know, that experience have to be with my children. Like my children have to go through that experience with me. Are there any questions? You can unmute, you can put it in the chat.
There's Claudine, thank you so much for sharing. Right now, there is nothing else in the chat that we wanted to bring forth, but maybe we can hear from someone in the community about a trip that they took recently, or maybe there's somebody here who uses points to travel and get discounts or free night stays in the hotel that might want to share.
Hi, good morning. I'll greet. Oh, go ahead. Thank you so much. This was a great session. I also wanted to include traveling with like schools. That's the way I was able to go to Cuba and China. I signed up for like a Chinese linguistics course, and part of the course was studying for a month in China. And when I went with the school, they got a discount. So it was like 20 of us traveling to China, and we got a really cheap discount. And then with Cuba, this is a while ago. This is like when Bush was president, his son. You couldn't go to Cuba from the United States unless you were a missionary. So one of my friends is a professor at a school out in Florida, and she had a missionary class. They formed the missionary class to go to Cuba. We left right off the port of Miami. So those are also ways to go to, sign up for a course, and you'd be surprised that you could travel at a discount by just, taking that course. And I'm complete.
Yes, thank you for sharing. Yes, definitely. There's so many different ways to include travel. The course, definitely a great one. I remember like pre-COVID, I used to get these phone calls that would offer like free travel, but you had to sit in and do a seminar. And I would first do my research to make sure it was legit, because there's different scams out there. But once I confirmed it was legit, I was like, okay, I'll go ahead. And it's like an hour seminar. I was like, okay, I can give you an hour seminar for a free trip, no problem. Their goal is obviously to try to get you to buy their product, but you're not obligated to buy their products. So that's another one. And I remember, I would like walk in the mall, and they would be like in the mall offering these opportunities, and I would always stop and just hear it out. And especially if I met them in person, I felt like it was even more legit. But again, research is the key to confirm how legit it is. But if you're paying for me to go to this destination, you want me to sit for an hour seminar, I would give you an hour of my day. It's 4 days. Sometimes they're 3 days. 1 hour doesn't hurt, and I just got a free trip out of there. Adam has his hand raised.
Yes, good morning.
Hi.
I know you brought up doing grocery shopping. I just want to know what are the challenges of going to a grocery store where you travel to multiple countries and eating out and whatnot.
So I haven't faced like any challenges so much finding groceries. I find that a lot of the countries I've been, either they have an app kind of like Instacart, but it's not Instacart, it's their own like version within their country that I can use. Or wherever I'm staying, I do make sure it's in an area that is convenient for me. So I can access public transportation or Uber if available. There is a grocery store in the area, or I could get to a grocery store nearby. So that's part of like the research I do when selecting the Airbnb, is making sure that it is somewhere convenient so I can get access to the things that I do need for the days that I'm there.
Cool.
Thank
Um,
you for the question, Adam.
You're
Gina
welcome.
has her hand raised, and while Gina gets ready to come on screen, can you also talk to any particular challenges with traveling outside of the country as an American citizen?
Hello, good morning, everybody. I don't know, I was actually gonna talk to Adam's situation, Adam's question. Can you hear me?
yes.
Sorry, I thought my screen froze for a second, I'm sorry. All right, so Adam, that's one of my favorite things to do when I'm traveling to another country, is to go to the grocery store. And I just feel like it's part of the experience to, to go and see what people are eating, what they're, what's available to them in the stores, and and how different it is from our stores here most of the time, and sometimes how similar. And I find I save so much money on food like that. I'm not a big Airbnb-er. I do prefer a hotel. I like somebody to take care of things for me. But I also do love to just like go wander and find out how people live, and go into the store, get something. And I usually can find healthier options than eating in restaurants, 3 meals a day for a week or so. I usually can find a healthier option by going to the local grocery store, and also find out like what's going on there, what are people eating, and it's always so much cheaper. The only time that I found that it wasn't cheaper was in the Caribbean. There I did find that the food is so expensive, but it depends on what you're buying, and you got to know where to go. And so people will tell you where to go get fresh things, and it'll be way cheaper, like fresh. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all of that. But I do find the grocery store is an integral part of visiting another place, to another state, another country. I find it to be really fun and interesting. And I am complete.
Thank you for sharing. Yes. And I find too, like going to a grocery store, it gives you the opportunity to interact with the locals, like, because they're going to the grocery stores, so just interacting with them, asking questions. Like, I'm a people person. So I'm like the person that walk like, hey, what to do around here? Or what do you like to do? And that helps a lot, like just being able to get suggestions from the locals. It looks like Teresa has her hand raised.
Yes.
I'm sorry I missed this good talk because I woke up and I was knocked off sleep. But thank you so much for even bringing this, sister. I have a friend who just recently she moved to Africa, and she's been to like several countries, and she was just saying that she loves it there. So children love it. They've traveled like 3 different countries in Africa. I know Tanzania, now they're in Kenya, but she just was saying that she fell in love with the people in Tanzania. But I forgot the place she went to, but she was saying that she loved the foods is there. She's a vegan, so she doesn't eat no meat at all. No, like she doesn't eat like anything that has to do with any kind of meat products. And she was saying that some of the stuff there, she was glad she bought some stuff with her. Some stuff was a little bit more expensive than than the the food that's in USA. But she just said it was just so very very nice, and she's gonna be living and she's gonna be coming back in the USA. Sometime I think the end of the year, beginning of the year. She's gonna be going back and forth, and she says one of the best things that she could have ever did was to to move there. She traveled from country to country, and she did something called trash retreats where the kids got a chance to do a cleanup because in Tanzania they don't really have like garbage stuff like we have here, so they did like a really cleanup, and she just and meeting some awesome people, and so it's really a really nice thing that she's been doing, and so she was showing us pictures and sharing us, teaching us like some. Well, I haven't really been doing the language thing, but I'm teaching others, the language. But it's really nice, and it's like it gives you a different look of Africa than what people, because people got this Africa looking like the way they talk about Africa like it's the worst thing in the world, but people are really nice, and she walks with us like she's doing a video chat with us, and she's walking around and just showing us the different things, in Africa. One thing she had recently when she went to Kenya from Tanzania, I think I'm saying it right, but she went to Kenya. She said it was cold when she got there, so they had like a little, they got like a little cold for being there. But she said otherwise, now the weather's back, pretty nice. But in Tanzania, she said it's super hot. So when she got there, it was like 50 something. So she said that one thing she said was different, but she loves it, and they're gonna be there for like 5 years. So I would never think that someone just would do that, but she's having a wonderful time, and it just makes me really think about going to Africa now because I actually see someone living there, and it's really nice, the way they have it set up. And I'm complete.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, definitely. You share like she's vegan, and I'm vegan too, and that was one of my fear when traveling. It's like, oh my God, what are we gonna eat? Am I gonna find something for my kids? And that was like a real fear I had for a while. Um, and when I started doing travel, it was amazing to see the food available to me and my kids as vegan, and how fresh it was. It was just amazing. I really didn't think it was possible. Like, oh, we're gonna end up having to go back to meat, and amazing. Just amazing. Like I can't even speak on it, so because it was different than what I expected. So that's something that even like just the fast food vegan options in other countries are beyond amazing, compared to the US. You can just taste the freshness, the savor. I just love it. I love it.
Yeah,
So thank you for
that's
sharing.
that's what she said. She said the food is so different.
Yeah, it
The only other place, the only problem she had is that she might have to travel. When in one country she had to travel long, but so she said, she make sure, from now on that she makes sure there's local things because she had to do like take cabs of that because it's like the supermarket's so far. But in
mhm,
Tanzania, everything was right there. She just walk out there, walk outside the door and go get something to eat. So that was different, but yeah, it was beautiful.
yes,
Very beautiful. Thank you so much, sister.
thank you. Thank you for sharing. Would anyone else like to share their experience?
I have an experience. A couple years ago, I went to South Africa for a summer with Rutgers University. They have classes. They had a course, and it cost $2,500, and they covered everything else. And we stayed at some really wonderful. I'm in Miami Airport right now, so it's noisy. Um, and we stayed at some wonderful guest houses, and it also included the safari and 2 weeks in Cape Town and 2 weeks in Johannesburg. It was wonderful. So there, like you said, there are so many classes and courses that you can dig up that would allow travel, and it's all inclusive. So I encourage people to, check out Rutgers and Brooklyn College and wherever you are, because it's true. It happens.
Yeah,
Thank you, and I'm complete. Yeah.
thank you for sharing. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there. It's doing the research, and the research can be time consuming, but it's definitely worth it at the end. but it's definitely worth it. There's a lot of travel groups on Facebook that I see that are taking trips, group trips. And that is my goal too, to create group trips, especially for families. So the opportunity there is just taking it, and payment plans are available. With my son's 10th birthday, planning this trip to Paris for him, because that's on his bucket list. Definitely, I'm paying for the hotels and things. Well, we're doing Airbnb, so the Airbnb, little by little, like Airbnb now offers an opportunity where you can make half the payment up front, and then I think it's 30 or 60 days later you make the other half payment. So there's definitely different ways to book a trip and pay in different ways, not having to just pay all that up front right then and there. Anything else?
Hi, this is Dawn. I apologize for hopping on late. What is the topic for today?
Today I share different hacks on how to travel, how to increase your traveling.
Okay. And I need to get with Shawnee to get the registration, so I know what the topics are for each day. But thank you so much.
So Gina shared in the chat that Expedia and Travel City has payment plans options. And don't yeah, so I do think Expedia do have payment plan options. um you know i I haven't done exactly through Expedia. With my flights, so if you're doing a group, and that's why I love group travel, you definitely could set up a payment plan with any airline. As long as it's group travel, they require, well, every airline is different, but most airline I've noticed require a deposit up front, and then you split those payments into monthly payment, but you have to be fully paid 60 days prior to the trip. So that helps, and that's why I'm a huge advocate for group travel, especially with my friends and family. My friends and family alone, we make over 15. So with them, it's like, all right, let's just book this trip and do a payment plan. We got this. Cruises offer payment plans. And I think cruises are also another great way to travel. If you're okay with being on boat, I don't like boats, but it's a great way to just hit up different destinations within a time period, and I love that. The only downfall I find with a cruise is that you're only there for a certain period of time. But for me, if I'll take a cruise and I'm like, all right, I really, really like this destination, I'll come back and take a flight back there, right? But it is a great way to just hit up different destinations. And they also offer payment plan. So that's another one. Yeah, so there's so many different ways to pay tickets in installment. So I want to say for me, I've done it with groups. But usually, if I see a flight on a deal, I'll just go ahead and book it. But with my hotel or my Airbnb or wherever I'm staying, my destination, those I'll either put a deposit down to secure it and then pay little by little there. And then if I'm going to do an excursion, then I'll go ahead and book. I'll try. My rule of thumb when booking my trip is I have to completely pay off the trip 60 days before, because going into the trip, my spending money should be spending money to enjoy my trip. It shouldn't be money to pay for anything. So I sit like planning my trip to Paris for March for my kids, by January, everything would already be booked. So by the time March come around, the money I have to spend is for us to just enjoy Paris. I don't want to be paying for a lodging area when I get there. I don't want to be paying for an excursion when I get there. Anything that I'm planning to do will be paid ahead. So I do utilize my spending money just to enjoy the destination. And don't be discouraged. If you have hiccups in another country, use it as a lesson. Yes, definitely. My hiccup in Colombia with COVID, and that's something that no one can control, right? I'm definitely gonna go back to Colombia. And they were actually amazing. My message the Airbnb person that we went to after and explained. So initially, when my son tested positive, we were at a hotel near the airport because we had just came back from Cartagena. And so I was honest with the hotel. I told them, hey, my son just tested positive. Please give me, 24, 40 hours to figure it out. And that figuring out was me trying to find an apartment for us to go to. So I was honest with everyone about what was happening because I just felt like it was a space to be honest. I didn't want to get in trouble for not being honest because I wasn't sure how the country communicates when someone tests positive for COVID. But everyone was super understanding and super helpful and guiding. And even the testing site, when they sent me the test result until my son tested positive, they kept checking in on me. They kept saying, is your son okay? Is there anything you need? And that for me was like very helpful and heartwarming for me, because I perceive, oh my God, like my son tested positive, everyone's gonna think where something is wrong. I just perceive the worst, but everyone's so supportive and helpful, and that really helped me a lot. And cruises are awesome. The both in me city.
So,
Yes.
Claudine, any challenges that you can share with travel outside of the country, or any challenges with traveling with children that you can speak to make the community aware of?
Yeah, so
your experiences.
Yeah, so challenges definitely with traveling with kids. Mentally, I have to like remind myself it's a kids trip because I have kids with me. So I have to make sure whatever I book or whatever we're doing, they will enjoy it but get an experience out of it. And I have to also realize that my kids are on a schedule, like they sleep at a certain time. So I adjust my day trying to keep their schedule. So I'm like, all right, nap time is usually from 12 to 1. During this period, I need to make sure we're back at our destination. We're gonna take a nap. I know my 5-year-old, he gets cranky very easily. So I have to make sure like I adjust anything I'm planning, I adjust around them to ensure they're not feeling overwhelmed, they're not overstimulated, and they're still having fun. Sometimes I realize that trips may just be us sitting by the pool because that's what they want that day, right? And I'm okay with that. I'm adjusting. When traveling with groups, I also learned that I have to adjust my perception, my idea of what I would typically do if I was doing a solo trip with the group. So I always open it up to my peers, and I just ask them, what do you all want to do? What, and I try to put everyone ideas and collection together and plan our itinerary around there. And that can be a challenge because we probably can't get in everything, or certain people might want to do certain things, some people might not want to do certain things. So that is one. One of my other challenges internationally, I have a real I feel the need, like I want to just drive sometime myself, but then that fear is a reality too. I'm like, okay, so if you're gonna drive, do you what side of the road are we driving? But so I deal with these challenges with a lot of research. Instagram and Facebook are like my go-to with hashtag. So I will hashtag the location I'm going to, and I'll look at other people's experiences, and I'll even reach out to them. I'll be like, hey, I've noticed you went to XYZ. Can you give me some ideas? So I'm actually planning this summer to go to Nigeria. And I had a lot of questions about Nigeria, and I wanted to do it as a solo trip at that too. So I had just hashtag Nigeria on Instagram. I looked at people's experience, and I actually reached out to this young lady who recently went and from New York. And I messaged her. And I'm like, hey, I noticed you went to Nigeria. Look great. Can you give me some feedback? Do you recommend it as a solo trip, or should I try to get some? And that helps a lot. So Facebook and Instagram are one of those great social media resources to just connect with people and ask questions. When I went to Jamaica, I wanted to just figure out how to get to my destination without spending so much money on a cab. Like someone said, for some reason, the Caribbean countries seem to be a little bit more expensive. I'm not sure why exactly, but I don't want to spend all this money on cabs and stuff. So I had hashtag Jamaica, and I had reached out to some people who were in Jamaica, and I just asked some questions. Somebody actually recommended a great tour guide, and that tour guide ended up driving us around. So that helps a lot. So social media definitely is a great resource to reach, to start just connecting with people in these cities or countries, just asking questions. And I find that people are willing to help and offer advice, support, and things like that. Someone asked what school did I attend in New York. I went to Long Island University in the Brooklyn campus.
Great. Thank you for those comments about challenges and other ideas for researching before you go. It sounds like, plan, but also be flexible. Do your research, but also be open to what experiences will be open to what experiences are there, but also keeping in mind yourself and how you're feeling and taking care of yourself. So like you said, instead of maybe doing an excursion, maybe you need to sit at the pool or head back to your resort or hotel or Airbnb to take a nap.
Yeah.
Teresa has her hand raised, and I'm not sure if you have more slides to share. What would you like to do?
We can answer Teresa's question, and I'm done with the slides.
Okay. All right. Teresa, did you have a question?
Yes, peace and blessing. I don't even know. Well, it just came to why after I talked. I'm physically challenged some days, a lot of days, and so I was wondering how was it to travel? When you have physical challenges, how was traveling to other countries? Is there a lot of accommodations, people that are physically challenged when it comes to traveling?
There are accommodations. I think that goes to just doing your research and reaching out. I see the accommodations, but personally, I haven't needed accommodations, and so, but I've seen. I think it all goes back to doing your research. If you're staying at a resort, calling them and having that conversation with them prior. So it's just that research and conversation. That I think that's the key. Lots and lots of conversation. With different.
I'm sorry. The reason why I was asking is because I have gone. I went last year with my sister. She invited me to a trip here in New York. She used that as a hotel, and they said it was handicap accessible. When I got there, I couldn't get into bed, so it was not handicap accessible. So that's why, I'm concerned about traveling, so much sometimes because of being able to get into bed that's low enough for me. So it's like I don't even know how to do that when it comes to stuff because they could say one thing when you get there, it's not. So that's my hesitation sometimes of traveling.
So I'm all about accountability and following up for things like this in email, right? So I would ask to speak to a manager and follow up on an email, because at that point, if you get there and they're not accommodating you, then you either have to figure, not you per se, but the company has to figure it out, or I need a full refund. But then that full refund, probably will leave well, what do I do at that point, but I I would say accountability. I remember recently me and my sister, we took a trip with our kids. We booked everything, and when we got there, we were with kids at that, 7 kids. They told us that they sold out on rooms and they didn't have any rooms for us. And I was like, well, you got to figure it out. I'm not leaving with 7 kids. Where am I going to go with 7 kids after midnight at that? And so she definitely had to figure it out. So I'm all about accountability. If I've done my due diligence in communicating, sending emails, my due diligence, and I get there and it's not what I expected or not, then that company needs to figure it out. And at that, you need to find a way to maybe not per se refund me completely, but comp me something. And that's what they did. So I was like, well, you're gonna figure it out because I have 7 kids here and it's after midnight. So I don't know where I'm gonna find a hotel in this city this late. So I don't know what you're gonna do. But on top of that, you're gonna give me some type of refund back on top of that too. So, you know, a good 30 minutes went by and she definitely figured it out, you know? So that's what I would say, just all about doing your part in communicating and figuring out the resources. Follow up in an email if you feel like the need to. Read reviews also, look at pictures, and see if you see that accommodation available. Sometimes they'll show you like the rooms with accommodation, sometimes they will not. But if you get there, definitely hold the hotel, the resort, whatever it may be, accountable for it. Definitely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. It looks like Adam has his hand raised.
Yes. Hi, Claudine.
Hi.
I just want to say that I really, really appreciate the fact that you are promoting the importance of traveling to our community, because I believe as a community we miss out on traveling because we've become so loyal to our neighborhoods and our communities here in America, and we forget that it's, you know, really making us sick and frustrated. So consequently, we don't get a chance to, you know, see the beauty of the world, especially as youngsters. And I want to say that your children are very, very lucky to have someone like you that can, you know, take them to multiple countries, because when they go to multiple countries, I believe it will enhance how they show up in the world. And I believe it will enhance their image and how they dress, especially. So I really, really, really want to commend you and send you flowers for that.
Thank
And
you.
I'm
Thank you. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments?
Seeing nothing in the chats, I'm going to pull up your special offer. And while I do that, you can share your special offer with the community.
I do want to say
Look
thank
aside.
you all for giving me this space to share my passion. Like I said, traveling is definitely something that I enjoy doing. And my goal is to see others travel and others experience the beauty that this world definitely has in itself. So I do have a special offer. So Dory Travel is my one of my businesses where I am a travel agent and I do book trips for families, and I book wide variety of trips. So I am offering a complimentary consultation on your next trip. And like I said, I will break it down for you. I will guide you every step of the way. And if you want me to go on that trip with you, I will go on that trip with you as well. And show you firsthand how to, when you get there, you know, how to just ball on a budget. And that's my saying for every travel trip I take. You know, people are like, you spend so much time. I'm like, nope, I'm out here balling on a budget. I'm enjoying life on a budget. So that I believe the team has chose someone, they're choosing someone.
Yes, so based on the number that you gave to us before we went live, Chantrell Bridges, if you're still in the space, you've been selected to receive this consultation. If you are willing, would you please unmute yourself and accept?
All my days. All my days. All my days. Sorry, yes.
All right. Beautiful. So Chantrell, if you would message Claudine using her contact information, which is going to come up on the next slide, and you and she will get together to schedule your consultation.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Claudine, can you read this slide for us, please?
Yeah, so my contact number, this is actually my direct number. which is 347, so New Yorker by heart, 478-1879. My Facebook is just my name. That's my Instagram tag. It is 12 E's. I do overextend it because in the school system, I just don't want kids being able to find me so easily. I get a little complicated. And then that is my direct email for Doree Travel. I am accessible all 4 ways. So please feel free to either call me, email me, or add me on social media. If you follow me on social media, you'll definitely see my adventures. I'm on a venture every month. So you will get to see my venture. I do share my experiences. You'll see my babies. And if you have any questions during my experiences, please feel free to send me a message and I'll be glad to answer those questions for you.
Okay, and here is your love offering and donations. At Zelle and QuickPay, you can use the email soulleadershipdevelopment@gmail.com, and for Cash App, $Spirit of a Woman. And the hyperlink would be posted in the chat, and remember to use the code 696CD. I want to say that the one thing I love most about your session this morning, Doreen, is that Claudine and Doree, with all those E's, I think those E's represent energy. I felt the energy in your share this morning. And energy is everything. And for us here in Woo, our energy is expressed in at this time, we express in the form of money. My own natural energy yields, and I'm asking you to share that energy, express that, reciprocate that energy here with Claudine this morning, because it is valued and it is appreciated here in this session. I surely felt inspired by your share of travel hacks. So thank you, and I encourage the community to reciprocate and share that energy back with you in the form of money.
Thank you.
And here is another way you can share your donations. We ask that our members, our family here in the community, commit to a monthly share. You can do it in increments of $25 a month, $50 a month, $75, or up to $100 a month. The hyperlink is shared in the chat. You just click the link and we make it easy for you to do so. Next slide, please. Yes, and who is coming up next? Coming up on October 17th, that's tomorrow, Monday, we have the topic, Carve Out Time for You. Altars, Use Creations and Becoming. Facilitated by Dion C. Monsanto. And on Tuesday, October 18th, we have an exciting session coming up for you. Tools Are Us, Toolbox Tuesdays, shared by Jamie Monet. And for all of our newcomers, we welcome you. The Woo Nation welcomes all newcomers. We ask that you share in the chat that you're new, whether you're on Facebook, if you're here on Zoom. We want to welcome you to this community, a community where we come to learn, elevate, and ascend. So thank you so very much. Welcome all newbies to Woo. And here's our schedule for you. If you're new, if you're not familiar with our schedule, we're here 5 days a week, Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 7 to 8:30 a.m. and Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 a.m. to 7:30. Our sessions are always streamed live on Facebook, and you can never miss a session if you sign up for Woo Alerts. Text Woo Nation to the number 74121. Again, Woo Nation to 74121. And we love to see you in the streets. We ask you to represent, join, and visit our swag store. That the hyperlink would be bit.ly/Woo Swag. There you can make purchases for your water bottles, your journals. I hope many of you had your journals this morning, taking notes of this wonderful session we heard this morning from Claudine. And you can get your tote bags, your masks. COVID is still out there. So you can get your masks, your coffee mugs. Visit our swag store today. And on this slide, I'd like to thank you. And here are several ways you can stay in touch. You can register with us at bit.ly/Wake Up Movement. You can visit us on Facebook. 2 locations. We have their private page at bit.ly/Woo Community and our public page, bit.ly/Woo Nation. On Instagram at Wake Up Everybody Virtual, and on YouTube, bit.ly/Woo on YouTube. And you can always email us directly at info.wakeupseries@gmail.com. And I would like to thank you so much for this session. Thank you, Doreen, and welcome to your love shower, where we share our faces, echo our voices, and blessing you for this wonderful session you shared with us this morning. So come off mute, family.
Thank you, Claudine.
Wonderful
Thank you,
job.
thank you, thank
Wonderful
you.
job,
Claudine, for this great
Good
Claudine.
job.
presentation on the importance of
You
Thank you.
took
This
traveling.
my
was
whole
amazing.
And
topic,
I encourage
but you
everyone
did it
to
so
keep
well.
traveling.
I got no complaints. Thank you, thank you, thank you,
Amazing.
thank you for
Amazing,
sharing all those
amazing,
As I
amazing.
always say, let's
wonderful
move forward, everybody, and
travel
have a
hacks
blessed
and
day.
tips. Have a
Thank you
beautiful
for
day,
showing us
family.
how
Thank
to
you so
live in
much.
other people in other lives that we never thought about living. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you
Looking
so
forward
much.
to talking with you and traveling with you, like you said.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thank you, beloved. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, admin team, being leading the way and guiding us through this.
Love you,
awesome
Teresa. Thank
session.
you.
Love y'all too.
Family, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a blessing, family.